Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff Coleman. I'm an executive coach, and I'm going to spend about the next 8 to 10 minutes talking about transitions. Specifically, I'm going to talk about a couple of aspects of transition. One, why clarity usually shows up after you actually move. Number two, the hidden fear that most leaders don't want to name. Three, how you lead yourself and your team through change. And I'll also share some lessons learned of my own as I've gone through a few transitions this year myself. So, the first point I want to address is that clarity comes after you move, not before. Now, on the Gallup Clifton Strengths Assessment, I have high deliberative, high analytical. So I'm someone who really likes to take time to really think things through, especially a big transition. So I'll take a lot of time to do a lot of research. I'll be slow to move. In fact, sometimes you could even call it paralysis by analysis, where I really want to make sure not just that I understand that the first couple of steps are going to be good, but I'm looking forward for steps 8, 9, and 10. Now, that makes me a bit risk averse. And so sometimes you just have to get over yourself and just kind of get moving. Some people have high activator who are people that just love to kind of move and kind of figure things out. But I will say that a lot of the executives that I coach, because of the level that they're at, just sort of figuring stuff out doesn't always work, because you're talking about many, many employees. Thousands, if not millions of dollars can be on the line. So making some bad first steps can actually have some major detrimental changes, consequences to it. So a lot of times it's getting to this point of how much more information do you need? What else would you need to know in order to be convinced that what you're about to do is the right move? So that's one of the things you can think about. Also, thinking about small steps instead of thinking about 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road. Come up with what's the next 30, 60, 90 days. What does that look like? Small steps. Come up with a timeline. Maybe it's budget driven, maybe it's time driven, maybe there are other factors at play, but come up with a timeline and then come up with some measurable objectives. Oftentimes are called KPIs, key performance indicators, to know when you're on track and when you're not off track. See, once you start moving, the one thing you can't get from research that you do get when you're moving forward is you get feedback. You get people in circumstances and other things that kind of give you some feedback to know, hey, this is the right path, we're moving in the right direction, or do I need to pivot? And so you can't get that feedback when you're just sitting there and analyzing things. So again, if you're like me, at some point you do just have to pull the switch and you have to get going. For me, it may have seemed like a very natural transition to go from 28 years in the Army to 3.5 years in the corporate, and then just go right into executive coaching. It actually was not that seamless. It wasn't that that easy for me. There were some coaching certifications I wanted to get along the way, but additionally, for me, it still felt like a big step. In fact, one of my coaches, or my key coach, he said, hey, Jeff, any transition is going to be difficult. And at some point, you do have to just step off, and there's always uncertainty involved in it. With my high deliberative, I do like to try to minimize the amount of uncertainty that I have. And so I will sit there and spend a lot of time trying to do that. But at some point, even I understand that clarity comes once you start moving, not before. So once you've done enough research, you feel like you know enough, you have to get moving. So that's that's one of the aspects. Number two, there is kind of a hidden fear that a lot of leaders don't want to talk about. And sometimes they don't even recognize it. And it's really what I'll call the fear of identity, right? And you see this a lot in military to civilian transitions, but also from corporate to coaching, as well as you feel like you're leaving behind your identity. And in some cases, you spent years, maybe even decades, building up an identity. I'm an Army officer, or I'm a corporate consultant, or whatever it is. And there's this fear that, who am I going to be if I make this big transition? Or if I'm moving into a new team, I'm now kind of the new guy. Maybe my identity of always being the go-to guy, maybe that's what has to get left behind. And so thinking through identity, there's a couple of things that'll be helpful. Number one, what are things that you need to leave behind? Things that that aren't working anymore, or that won't work in that next step, especially if you're moving up or you're taking a larger team, or you're having a bigger responsibility due to promotion. There's a great book called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And sort of the sort of to boil it all down is to this idea that a lot of times what makes us successful and gets us to where we're at, we're going to have to change. We're going to have to transition to do something else in order to move sort of to that next level. And so one of the things that a lot of the executives that I coach, they're not necessarily fearful of failing. They're really, actually, when you boil it down and you really get into some good coaching conversations, they're kind of fearing the loss of identity, or just they're not sure what that next identity is. And so one of the things to think about is not that you're losing your identity, but that your identity is just being shifted, it's being modified. So my identity as a coach is not a departure from my identity as a leader in the Army and in the corporate world, but rather it's built on those foundations. So there are things I'm bringing: my work ethic, my desire to help people, et cetera. They're coming from those that I'm actually using to help form this kind of new identity. So the third aspect is sort of leading yourself or leading a team through this transition. How do you do that? Well, like I said, one of the things is, I like to do is I do prep, I do prepare, I do a lot of research. But the other thing is, when you're helping your team, do the same thing that I mentioned, is take some small steps, get the team together, talk about where you're going to go, and then talk about what are the next few steps, and then do regular check-ins with your team. Check in as the team is moving forward to make sure that they're hitting those key performance indicators. So whether you're in a personal transition where you're transitioning maybe a different job or a different role, taking a team through a transition can also be difficult as well, but the same principles are going to apply. The same thing of not fearing moving forward, but also not doing it recklessly can help as well. And so I mentioned, I've been going through my own transition from Army officer to corporate consultant, and now to full-time executive coaching. And I'll give you 3 tips that I found, which are invaluable. And number one is don't do it alone. Okay, get a coach. I have a coach. I have mentors and advisors as well. But number one, get a coach. And why do I say that? Not just because I am a coach, because a coach can help you avoid blind spots. They can see things that you're not seeing. A lot of times, that active listening, just being a mirror and reflecting back to you what they're hearing, can really be eye-opening. It can accelerate your learning, and it can really help you step into that new identity with confidence. They can help you understand how to align your strengths with your new role. And they can also provide some accountability. That idea that if I'm going to take some small steps and I'm going to establish performance indicators, they can also sometimes be the ones that can help hold you accountable, because a lot of times high level executives, there's no one in the organization they can really talk to. If they're feeling like, I'm not sure if I'm doing this right or how I'm coming across, they may not want to have that conversation with when most people report directly to them. And so that can be a little bit of feeling like isolated at the top. And so sometimes just having a coach can be a great way to just have someone to be that mirror. The second thing to remember, and I talked a little bit about this before with identity, is that your identity is not discarded. I actually like to just say it's kind of redesigned. Who you are and kind of what you're stepping into, you're using your already established identity, but you're using it really as a platform to move forward into your next role or into that next team, and carry forward what serves you, whether it's your work ethic or, your personality or your personability, and let go of things that don't work. Maybe letting go of being the go-to guy, being the guy who jumps in and kind of fixes everybody's problems. That may be an identity that you've developed and that you really enjoy. But as you go higher, that may be an identity that you really have to let go. And the third tip, it goes back to kind of the first thing I said, that commitment beats certainty. Commit to what you're doing. Commit to moving forward. Commit to that transition and go full in. Don't look back. Don't keep wondering, am I doing it right? But move forward. Again, have an accountability partner, a coach, a friend, a mentor, etc., and move forward with commitment. And that commitment is going to help bring certainty. And now, throughout the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be doing a few of these short LinkedIn live sessions that really to kind of peel back the curtain a little bit on what coaching might look like and what coaching can help you do. And if you know anyone who's going through transition, or if you're going through transition or you think you might be going transition, then I hope that you'll follow along as we go, and hopefully that you'll get something out of it. So with that, take care and goodbye.